Caliphates. Previously, we've talked about how the Muslims expand from their original base in Western Arabia, conquering Syria and Iraq and Egypt, Iran, and then expanding beyond until they bring the whole Persian Empire in northern Africa under their rule. And they do so in the time after Muhammad, in a time known as the Age of the Caliphates. So, what is a caliphate? A caliphate is a government ruled by a caliph. What is a caliph? Well, in Arabic, the word is khalifa, which means successor or deputy. And the caliph is thought to be the successor to Muhammad as God's deputy on earth. He is seen in Islamic thinking as having a role very similar to that of the Byzantine emperor, in that he is both the head of a government, of an empire, like a Roman emperor, but he is also the ultimate head of Islam, of the Islamic community, ideally worldwide and not merely in the territory he controls. There are other titles that will be used to describe the position of this person, like Amir al-Mu'minin, which means commander of the faithful. But we usually refer to a specific series of governments as the caliphates. Now, when Muhammad had died, who would be his successor was something that was hotly disputed. On the one side were the people who saw themselves as partisans of Ali, that is, the Shiite Ali or Shiites, who believed that the office of the leader of the community should be held within the family of Muhammad, and that only those who were directly from that family had legitimate authority. Over time, different Shia groups will come along that support different lines of descent from Ali, because of course Ali has more and more descendants as time goes by. Each of these groups will see their leaders as imams, and each Shia group sort of identified today by which line of descent from Ali they hold as that of their leadership. There is a second group that emerges in the early days of Islam called the Kharijites or Khawarij, who believe that the caliph should be chosen from the entirety of the Muslim community by whoever is the best Muslim. Essentially, it should be an elected office. There is no need to be a member of Muhammad's family or his tribe or even an Arab. Literally any man who is considered to be the best Muslim could be the leader. Now, the third and largest group, of course, are the Sunnis. And the Sunnis believe that the caliphate should go through hereditary succession within universally recognized families that do not necessarily need to be Muhammad's family. And they do not believe that the caliph is equal in authority to Muhammad, unlike the Shia imams. Now, the first few caliphs create the first universal caliphate. Universal in the sense that all Muslims are part of it. And these first caliphs are what are called the rightly guided or Rashidun caliphs. They rule from Medina, and they are in succession Abu Bakr, who was Muhammad's best friend and one of the very first converts, Umar al-Faruq, or Omar, as he's sometimes called, who is also an in-law of Muhammad, Uthman ibn Azan, and finally Ali ibn Abu Talib, Ali being the son-in-law of Muhammad. After their time, those first disputes between the different factions rise up, and the one that comes out on top is the Umayyad family under the leadership of Muawiyah, who is a family member of Uthman. Muawiyah moves the capital of the Islamic Empire to Damascus in Syria, and his family will continue to dominate the entire Muslim world for almost 100 years. They will be followed by the Abbasids, who are relatives, cousins of Muhammad. They will usually be based in Baghdad. They'll rule there for more than 500 years. Later on, a side branch of the family will escape to Cairo, where they will have the title, but not really the power. And in the 16th century, the power of the caliph goes to the Ottoman royal family based in Constantinople. The Ottoman emperors will carry on the title of caliph right down until 1924, when this man is overthrown as the last universally recognized Sunni caliph. There are, though, other caliphates, and some of these we will talk about at various points later on. The most successful of these are the Fatimid Caliphate, a Shia caliphate that begins in North Africa and later will be based in Cairo. A branch of the Umayyad family, which establishes a caliphate in Spain for about a century. The Almohads, based in Morocco. A Sokoto caliphate in Nigeria in more recent times. A very, very brief 1-year caliphate based in Mecca that was destroyed by the Saudi government. And then finally, the caliphate that was proclaimed by ISIS in 2014 and collapsed in 2018. Now, the second family, the Umayyads, rule over the entire Muslim community, and they are the ones who bring this great expansion of a united Muslim community to cover this enormous area by the middle of the 8th century. However, by the middle of the 8th century, Muslims are beginning to slow down in expansion. In Western Europe, as we'll see in a bit, they are stalled out in southern France. They're defeated by the king, well, by the mayor of the Franks at the Battle of Tours in 732, and do not advance further northward. A few years earlier, they stall out in conflict with the Byzantine Empire. Now, Constantinople had from the beginning been one of the major goals of Muslim armies. There are many attempts to reach it. There are invasions aimed at capturing Constantinople that fail in the 650s, in the 670s. A major siege of Constantinople ends in 678, and again in 718. After 718, the Muslims generally leave Constantinople alone for the next 300 more years. During that last siege, the Byzantines have discovered a secret weapon called Greek fire. You can see it being used here. The exact recipe is not known, but it is basically a sort of petroleum jelly that is thrown out of jars onto ships at sea. It burns on the surface of water. Seems to have been something kind of like napalm. And with this weapon, the Byzantines are able to defeat the Arab who are trying to get into Constantinople. And it is very much their secret weapon. Now, in the same years that the Muslims are entering Spain in the extreme west, in the extreme east, they're invading India. 711 and 712, they conquer the kingdom of Sind, establishing two Muslim governments, provinces of the Umayyad Empire, one in Sind and one in Multan. These are more or less modern Pakistan. Again, the Muslim army and Muslim advance will stop for about 300 years at this point. To the north, the Muslims find themselves in conflict with a group called the Khazars and the Empire of Khazaria. The Khazars are yet another one of those Turkic steppe peoples who've established themselves in the endless grasslands of southern Russia. In 737, they are defeated by the Muslims, and it seems like they had agreed to become Muslim and tributary. However, they do something really interesting. In the years after their conflict with the Muslims, the Khazars ruler, the Khazar Khagan, has a religious debate. He is, of course, a worshiper of gods of sky and wind and so on. And he realizes the Khazars need a new religion. So he invites a Christian delegation to come from the Byzantine Empire, a Muslim delegation to come from the Umayyad Empire, and for funsies, he invites a Jewish delegation to come too. And he has all three give a presentation to him about why he and his people should join their religion. At the end of the Christian delegation, he asks a question to Christians saying, your religion sounds great, but I'm looking at two others. If I don't decide to become a Christian, should I become a Jew or a Muslim? And the Christians say, well, the Muslims worship a false prophet. They are inspired by Satan. The Jews, while they do not know about Jesus, are at least partially right. So Judaism is better than Islam. And the Khagan says, okay, sure. Then he invites the Muslims to give a presentation. He asks them the same question. And, if I don't become a Muslim, should I become a Christian or a Jew? And the Muslims say, the Christians believe that there are three gods, which is completely wrong. God was never had a human body. This is heathenism and polytheism. It's completely inspired by the devil. It's terrible. But Judaism, they do acknowledge there's just one God. They don't make statues of him. And while they do not accept Muhammad as a prophet, they're at least on the right track. Does the same thing finally. The Jewish delegation, who is kind of like, Christians, Muslims, it's all kind of the same thing. And as a result, the Khazars convert to Judaism. And as Jews, they run this relatively large empire in southern Russia. And as Jews, they can deal with both the Byzantines and the Umayyads, later Abbasids, as equals, but not as subservient. So it's kind of a clever little trick they play. Now, a few years later, the Muslims expanded into Central Asia, conquering the various Turkish and Sogdian peoples who lived there. And this brings them into conflict with Tang China, which is also moving westward into Central Asia, conquering various Turkic, Uyghur, and similar states. And the two empires, the Han Chinese and the Muslims, meet at a place called the Talas River in what's now Kyrgyzstan, and the Chinese are defeated. And the Muslims take quite a lot of captives from the Chinese army back with them. Now, the victory will mean that cities like Samarkand, it's now all of those stands in Central Asia, will become Muslim rather than be under Chinese domination. Those prisoners, though, some of them have a skill known in China and not known elsewhere, making paper. And making paper will be brought back by those prisoners first to the Muslims in Central Asia, to Iran, and eventually, well, within about 30 years, to Mesopotamia before spreading out across the Muslim world, because paper can be made anywhere. Paper is cheaper than any writing material previously known. It's more durable. Unlike papyrus, it doesn't have to come from Egypt. Unlike parchment, you do not have to kill a goat or a sheep to get a new page. All you need to do is use plant or wood fibers. It is the best writing material yet, and it will have a revolutionary effect.